This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.
Welcome to What's News Dunedin, brought to you by Hazur Kebab, the radio show that spawned from the 20,000 plus strong local Ōtepoti Dunedin What's News Dunedin Facebook group. The group that's been put in the social back into social media since 2020 with respect for adult debate and a sense of humour. I'm your host, Richard Knights. On today's show, we're talking to our wonderful guest, Nic Rawlence Moa expert and de-extinction critic, who'll be telling us more about themselves and what they do, as well as helping us look back at the posts that generate the most interactions over the past 7 days on the What's News Dunedin Facebook group. Those posts this week are the council infighting that's happened, or even before they've officially assumed their roles, an opinion piece from Leon White, the outgoing USA president, calling for a North Dunedin North East Valley ward for voting, and what would be a very windy week in Ōtepoti. Nic, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, fantastic. Now, before we get started on the serious stuff, which is obviously the news and talking about you and Moas and de-extinction, we've got a couple of pieces that we do first, right? So first thing is we have a pun of the week. On a Monday, we do Pun Day Monday on the group, right? And what that means is that the person that gets the most laugh reacts to their dad joke or pun gets the joke read out on the show on a Friday. So we see whether it kind of comes off the page and turns into turns into something funny in real life as well. So that pun of the week is as follows: why did the Scarecrow get a promotion? Because he was outstanding in his field. I know. I like jokes like that. They put my dad joke sense of humour. So that's definitely a winner.
That is a good one.
I think so, absolutely. So and again, before we get into the serious stuff of the show, we actually have 3 pop questions, right? So these are 3 questions I ask all my guests, and basically we get an indication of who Nic is as a person. So these 3 questions just get right under the skin. They're not scientific or anything like that. I thought these up, so I'm decided that they're actually, they're a value.
Nice and valid.
Oh, absolutely. So first question is cream teas. So you have a scone, you have butter, and then you have jam and cream. Now, what goes first after the scone and butter? The jam or the cream?
Jam.
Good answer, Nic. That's the only question you get wrong on my show. I say this to guests every single week. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I mean,
always jam.
Always jam, absolutely. And then as much cream as you like. You see, 'cause you can't spread jam on cream. In my mind, that's the way I look at it. But in the UK, it's a very hotly fought debate between 2 bordering counties, Devon and Cornwall. One does it the right way, Cornwall. Devon does it the wrong way. Don't ask me why. Strange people in Devon. That's why you drive straight through and keep going to Cornwall, basically. So, second question, equally as important, but not one that you can get wrong. Who is your favourite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
Donatello.
Perfect. There's no wrong answers with the turtles. You could have even said Master Splinter, and you would have got away with that as well. To be completely fair. Also, we're all Renaissance painters, all cool in their own rights. So that's question number 2. So we're 2 for 2 at the moment. The third one's a thinker, right? So the third one might take a little, might need to give a little bit of thought to. So, would you rather wake up tomorrow morning as a fish or a bear?
I'd go a bear because I would be able to hibernate through winter.
I like that answer. When I was writing these questions, or sneaking them off the internet and finding them on websites that are full of would you rather questions, I'm thinking fish. Because as it stands right now, I can probably, if I want to, go to most places a bear goes.
Yeah.
Right? Including hibernation in bed for the whole winter, if I wanted to. I can't swim for long underwater. I'm thinking like as a fish, there's an exploration option for me as a fish that I don't have as a human.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think that's where I'm thinking. So there's no right or wrong answers here, but I like to answer the question as I'm asking them as well. But bears are equally valid, right? But I think I'd go fish. Go fish. That's a game, isn't it? There is
a game, Go Fish.
That's a card game, isn't it? Yeah. So, do you have 8s or do you have to go fish? Yeah. So I would. I'd be going fishing. So that's the important stuff. The rest of the show's downhill from this point forward, mate, to be completely fair. So you can relax now. You put your feet up, enjoy the ride. Want to talk about the 3 posts of the week that have seen the most interactions over the last 7 days on the What's News Dunedin Facebook group. The big one has been the already strange, council infighting that has taken place over the last couple of weeks since the election between Councillor Van der Vis and Councillor Ong. Councillor Van der Vis being the longest now serving councillor on the council, having done, I don't know, 21 years, but with a gap of 3 years in the middle. I think he was off for 3 years, but so definitely 18 years of service.
He's been here for as long as I've been here.
Yeah, it's been a long while, eh? So I think he missed out in 2007 or something, but then was back straight after. And brand new councillor, Councillor Ong. So there's been a little bit of what would you call it? Social media tit for tat kind of going on. Mr. Ong's been talking up to his friends in the ODT about, how he feels wronged by Councillor Van der Vis. I find the whole thing very strange. If I'm going to be honest, because it feels very much like handbags at dawn.
Yeah.
And it also feels very much like stuff that doesn't need to make it into the public realm, right? I mean, so straight away, like Councillor Van der Vis has come out swinging after the election with who is this guy? What's his colour? Is he who he says he is? That kind of thing. Which I guess to a point are valid questions, but sometimes to the point you kind of you sometimes want to keep that to yourself. But he's come out that way, and then Councillor Ong's come back with "I am who I say I am," and. But he hasn't really provided much in the way of substance to support that. He's actually just said, do you know what I mean? Like, it
hasn't been open.
No, and hasn't been particularly. It could have nipped it in the bud very quickly, in my mind, because basically, if someone said, if Nic Rawlence said to me, "I don't believe you worked for Imperial Tobacco and Genesis Conferencing and Iris Software and Canon that you said you would," I could quite easily. I could give you my business cards. I could quite easily produce the business cards. I could quite easily produce my CV. I go, there's my CV. These are the years and the months that I stated that, and job done.
And here are my boss's names and phone numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And by all means go and check. Councillor Ong has chosen not to do that. He's actually been quite. I was going to say squirrely. Squirrely is the wrong word. He's been quite obtuse with the way he's kind of come back and responded to those claims, and. Which just makes people more interested.
Yeah.
But I wonder, being the cynic that I am, whether he's doing that purely to keep himself in that public...
Might be a media strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's that whole kind of like, if they're talking about me, it's good. I don't care whether it's good or bad they're talking about me. But I'm getting airtime. I'm getting column inches. It seems very strange because then he also got a letter, an email from the CEO to say, this is Councillor Ong, got an email from the CEO to say, hey, look, there's been some people that have felt uncomfortable in conversations with you. We need to sort of talk about making sure that we protect you and we also help you out with the process of being a public facing individual, which he then ran straight to the press with, which to me again that's like that kind of that's in-house stuff that doesn't need to, almost literally before the email had landed, he was running to the ODT, which again just feels almost like a media strategy about just keep people talking about me. And now he demands an apology from Councillor Van der Vis, and that's probably like, I'd suggest that when we're going to talk about the subject later on, I would suggest that bringing Moa back to life is probably quicker and easier than actually getting an apology out of Councillor Van der Vis.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one.
Given his previous track record. But again, it just feels like they want to keep it there for their own gain. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, very much. It's similar things with Colossal Biosciences is trying to de-extinct Moa. They've come out and said, we don't care that you get up in arms. The more you get up in arms, the more you push back, the more we're in the media and the more their numbers go up. It's a media strategy.
It's a strategy, right? So, and that's what it feels like. That's what I want from my councillors, genuinely and generally. So, genuinely and generally, is for them to go and do a good job for the city.
Yeah,
I don't care if they like each other. Couldn't give a monkeys. I couldn't give a monkeys whether they sit there and call each other names left, right, and centre. But I don't necessarily want to hear about it, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. If they did a corporate boxing match, I'd probably turn up and be interested. I'd probably buy a ticket, and see who came out on top. But generally, I'm not that interested. What I am interested in is in what happens around the council table, because that's actually what they're getting paid a reasonably okay sum of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the best paid job in the world. but it's not. I mean, it's 80 plus grand, so it's not to be sniffed at. To take this city forward, and that's what I'm interested in. Especially, and I stood for council, so I mean, I put my hand up for election too, and I was unsuccessful. So I want the people that were successful to do a fantastic job, right? To do a job that I can look at and go, I tell you what, it doesn't matter that I didn't get in. They're doing the job I would have done. Actually, I'm proud of them. Well done to them. They're doing, if I'd have been there, it wouldn't have been any different. I'd have actually, that's what I want.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it just feels like handbags at dawn, and it feels like, kids in the playground and lots of other sort of analogies that kind of go like, I just want you to get on and...
Yeah, leave the politics at the door and get on and do what's good for the city.
Good for the city, absolutely. It's not even politics. This is the pettiness. Leave your pettiness at the door almost. It's like, I don't care if you take your politics with you, but this just seems a bit bloody strange. I've never seen it like that before. I mean, and we've had plenty of people that have gone on to council that haven't liked each other.
Yeah,
because that's not a prerequisite of being there. But I don't ever recall it being like this.
No, nor do I.
Within days, they haven't even been they haven't been inaugurated yet. They haven't actually even assumed their roles officially yet. That doesn't happen until next Friday. It just seems a bit early in the piece, to be sort of hurling barbs at each other across the table. So
very weird,
but we'll see. Right, second topic, and this is one actually I'm very strongly agreeing with. Is there was an opinion piece from Liam White. Liam's a friend of the show, been on the show before, who is the outgoing OUSA. I don't know how you say it. I always say USA, but whether that's right or not, I don't know. OUSA president, who's just lost. There's just been an election for them as well, and someone else is going to be there for next year. Actually calling very intelligent. He's a very well-spoken individual, and I'm very impressed with him. I mean, he's not an old person like me. He's a young guy. Calling for a North Dunedin or a North East Valley ward. Something that when I was on the election campaign, heard lots of people talking about, and actually and was a firm supporter of myself, because you've got this student voice, mainly living in North Dunedin. We've got 20 to 25,000 students. They make up 20%, 25% of the whole population of Dunedin. But getting them to vote
is really quite hard.
They don't want to do. They don't see what they don't see. They want to be involved. When you get onto campus, you'll see that there's actually quite a political movement there, but they don't seem to want to come out and vote because they're not voting for anything that they can see is kind of comparable to themselves. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So I would have loved at every election, forget whether I'm standing or not, for the young people to have come to the fore, and all those kind of people like Lily Waring and Rose Finney and Jet Krasinski and obviously Mickey Treadwell, who did get onto council, and Lachlan Akers and those guys. I'd have preferred to see them sort of sweep into council and be a young voice, because I think it should be. It should be the thing that takes the city forward, because they're going to be here longer than we are.
Yeah.
But that's why I see a value in a North East Valley or a North Dunedin ward, because actually that would encompass their voice. Because you have like the Wakawaiti Community Board, you've got Saddle Hill Community Board. I mean, Saddle Hill Community Board only represents about, I think, because I'm in there, because I'm out in Brighton, it's kind of, a few thousand people.
Yeah.
Whereas one in North East Valley would potentially like 30,000 people.
Yeah.
It's almost the same size as Mosgiel or similar size. And then you've got a Mosgiel one. So it does seem like we are catering to certain segments of the city, but not
all of them.
Because South Dunedin could also potentially be another community board. Because again, then at least you'd have a voice or So obviously, ward is slightly different from a community board, because a ward would be like a voting block, whereas a community board is kind of more like a lower level than council. But either one, at the very least, I think there should be community board in those places. What would you say to that?
I think we need one. They're an important part of the city's population. They're increasingly down here for longer periods of time with postgrad, and a lot of them won't go home during the summer months. They'll stay down here. So it's a voice we do need to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have some fantastic ideas, because when I was on campus, again, doing as part of the campaigning, the things that they're saying are very distinct and different to what you'll hear if you go and talk to the people at Mosgiel, for example. but equally as valid.
Yeah.
Equally, from a section of the community that has a equal validity to, the guy that's asking for flood protection on the Tari Plain. So some of the things that they were saying is like asking for a student pub and asking for, better connections between Studentville and the university and the rest of the city. All those kind of things you actually look at and go, well, they make perfect sense. There's absolutely no reason why the city itself shouldn't be encompassing some of those ideas, take them on board, and making the city a more inclusive and all-encompassing city. Because when the students are gone, because the city loses its vibrancy,
it goes dead quiet and everything shuts down.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of and then when they're back, and you kind of everything kind of picks up naturally, and you just kind of go, actually. That's that is genuinely fantastic because it brings something to the city that you clearly miss when it's not there. You don't notice it so much when it's happening. As soon as it disappears over those summer months, you kind of go, okay, yeah, we've lost something for a bit.
Yeah, Dunedin goes very quiet. It doesn't tend to have like a tourist season over summer because all the students have gone.
Yeah, exactly. So even if some tourists come in, they don't quite replace the sheer numbers that we've lost over for the student period. But like I say, more students are staying for longer. Because it's quite a lot now are not just doing their 3-year bachelor degree. They're kind of going on to do masters or PhDs. And we've got such a fantastic university.
I know.
And we are absolutely blessed by having one of the best universities, if not the best university in New Zealand. It kicks butt on a global scale. We bat well above our station when it comes to the amount of research that comes out of our university, that research comes out of our city, and yet we're not listening to the voices that are walking the halls. And it just feels to me that we're missing an opportunity to be better, not to give ourselves more work, not to not to pander to a particular sector of the city, but actually bringing those ideas into the bigger picture. To me, is going to bring more, make us better faster.
Yeah.
And we can enjoy a city that's kind of based on everything from sort of like your early 20s all the way up to when you start hitting the councillor age, which is in their 50s, most of them.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of young ones now. Obviously, Benedict Tong is actually 42. Mickey Treadwell was probably our youngest councillor for a long, long time in his 30s. And I'm looking forward to seeing what younger voices can do at the table. Yeah.
And we had Elliot Ware until this election. Yes, he's a master's student in my department.
Yeah, on ORC. So and I think the ORC will miss him. Massively, because he was awfully. I mean, he was so involved. He walked the walk, right? He talked the talk, walked the walk, and he was so. I mean, again, a friend of the show, been on the show a couple of times now, and a personal friend. I would hope to say, Elliot, if you're listening, hopefully we're mates. But just so knowledgeable, so well spoken, so. I wish I mean, he's a lot younger than me, like 30 years younger than me. I wish I'd been as well rounded as a human being as they, people like him and Mickey Treadwell are at that age. Because I don't think I could say that I was, But they're fantastic, and I say ORC. I think ORC will miss him incredibly.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So especially with a kind of sort of shift to the right it took so long to get them away from the right, and then literally within one round of elections, they've gone sliding back the other way, which I just don't understand. As a left-leaning city, I don't understand how we keep swinging back to the right of politics. It doesn't make any sense. Just getting people out to vote is the problem, the biggest problem we've got, I think. Final topic of the week, wind.
Yep.
We've had a bit of that this week, to be fair.
Definitely.
So, like, Tuesday was windy, all right? So Tuesday was absolutely blustery. And then I was sitting there reading the papers or reading the online stuff, and then it turns around and says, and it's getting worse on Thursday. And I thought, I don't believe that. Like, genuinely, because the amount of times that I see the weather report and then they'll follow it, it says it's going to be snowing tomorrow. You get out there, it's blistering sunshine. It never seems to get it right. So I thought, well, I'm not sure. I'll wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
And then yesterday I drove. And my God, like, thankfully it wasn't.
Like Invercargill.
Well, yeah, or as persistent all day as it could have been. It came in a real sort of like in the middle of the day kind of like like in like a blizzard and out, and it was just crazy. But the pictures I've seen and the videos, there was a video at the university where there was a tree coming down and people running around. I
saw that. The students just running down the street and the trees all falling down.
Trees falling down behind them, which is absolutely mad. The roof came off the badminton courts over in, or whatever it is, in Victoria Road. There was one of the ladies on the page. I can't remember her name, but was posting about the fact that there was an instance where her son was getting on a bus, and to get out the shelter, to get out the wind, they went around the back of the shelter. Then a roof came off a house the opposite side of the road, smashed into the shelter. But it hadn't been for the fact that it had gone round the back, they would have been standing in that bus shelter, and they've survived that. Which is, I mean, it's good that there's no stories in the paper at the moment. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Of injury and fatality, because those things can obviously happen. But it was absolutely mad. I was out in my car at one point, and I was sat there, and the wind came in when it really. And my car was literally, I thought it would flip. It was shaking. It was.
Yeah.
I've never been around winds as strong as that.
I was in my office and it was getting really, really dark outside, and then suddenly the door slammed from the pressure change, and I could just see leaves going up like in a tornado.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the wind just hit, and my office faces the big glass link between the old dental building and the new building. They've got those giant windows, and just watching the windows just go in and out.
Bowing in and out with
the wind.
It was crazy. And then obviously down Anzac Avenue, there's a couple of big elm trees that have gone over. It rips up the carpet of the lawn as well, the whole thing. And I drove in from Brighton, so I'd come up Blackhead Road, and again there's a couple of places down there where the actual, where the lawns come with it, and it's the most strange looking thing, because now the lawn is like 90 degrees to the ground. It's like sticking up in the sky, but it's the massive root structures that take it with.
And the road sign.
And the road sign, stuck in. Yeah, someone was praising the DCC on the What's News the Facebook page yesterday, saying you got to say the person who put that sign in, kudos, right? Because even when it's been uprooted with a tree, it's still there. That's pretty good going. 170 kilometre an hour winds recorded at Toroa Heads.
Yeah, it's just astounding.
That is, and I think yesterday it went up to 232 kilometres per hour.
There was a hut in the Southern Alps, I think, it got up to that speed.
It was just mad. And you just look at that and kind of go, my house at home has flexed so much, because I've got like a single story with an extension on the top.
Yeah.
And it's new from 2010, right? So it's all new construction, that sort of thing. The top bit has flexed so much that some of the wood has popped on the side. And you just kind of go in that's some power right there.
Yeah.
Mother Nature was not happy. No. And it seems to be, October seems to be our month in Dunedin, or even New Zealand full stop, for the craziest of weather. Because it was this time last year we had the floods.
Yep.
This year we've just had some of the scariest winds I've witnessed living here.
Year before that we had the really deep snow dump.
There you go. Yeah, and then people deny climate change, which makes me wonder,
Yeah, same.
what Kool-Aid they've been drinking, because they've been drinking something. But it's some of that stuff is just, it's just a reminder how powerful nature is. Because I saw some pictures again from Portsmouth Drive, of the sort of picking up the sea spray, and just literally it was doubling the rain, because it was just blowing up off the harbour. And all those bloody it's 2.5 ton containers out in Ravensbourne,
just picked up and
thrown around like a piece of confetti.
And it's only going to get worse.
It's not getting any better. And people are just sort of sitting there going, oh, no, we'll deal with that next year or next decade or next whatever. And you just kind of go no, it's telling you it wants to be dealt with now. Yeah. Not that you can change the wind and stuff, but we can certainly have an influence over what we're doing to make things worse.
Yeah. Even in the 12 years that I've been here, it's I remember in winter, snow days every 2 weeks. You'd have snow really, really frequently, and now we're lucky if we get snow or a snow day.
Or even an ice day, because I'm the same. When I first got it, it was like snow days were frequent now, and that's 15 years ago. And it is a little bit. It's hard. For me, it's hard to comprehend how much has changed so quickly. You know, because everyone talks about climate. Oh, it's just a cycle. It's another ice age. It's this, that, and the other. But I've literally seen it happen in the last 10 years. I've seen the changes with my own damn eyes. You know, and I'm not out there measuring how much the sea's changed in height, but I'm seeing the physical changes in the weather and the patterns and everything else that's going on. And yet I still see people denying that these things are happening. And that to me is a little bit crazy.
Yeah, this inability to take evidence on board and change their opinions.
Yes, and we should all be able to do that. You know, I'm an opinionated bugger. I'm always right. You ask my wife, and she'll tell you that I'm wrong most of the time. But I should be able. I can still see things and go, actually, I can change my opinion on that because actually the science and the evidence and the data tells me that actually, for that rare occasion, I'm wrong. You know, and actually, I need to reevaluate what I'm actually, you know, what I'm saying. Agreed. Cool. Now, I want to talk about you in a minute, but before we do, I'm just going to get a word from our wonderful sponsor.
Have you checked out Hazur Kebab yet? It's your go-to for a delicious lunch, a tasty dinner, or anything in between. Order online to save time and pick up some delicious, authentic Turkish cuisine in just minutes. HazurKebabCafe.co.nz. Dine in or take away at 906 George Street.
Do you like a kebab, Nick?
Yeah, do like a good kebab.
Have you tried Hazur?
Not yet.
You got to go, mate. Like, genuinely, I'm not just saying that because they sponsored the show, right? Genuinely, some of my favourite food in the whole of Dunedin. I love food. Literally, my world revolves around food. And it's just fantastic. Top end of George Street, opposite George Street Normal School.
No, definitely give it a go.
And it's just the food's cooked with love. Like, I know it sounds silly sometimes to say stuff like that, but everyone's having fun in there. Everyone's enjoying working there, and it reflects in the quality of the food. So it's well worth a nudge. You'll go back. I can almost promise you.
Oh, sounds good. Definitely give it a go.
So now I would like to talk to you about Moa. Now I was talking to Georgia Ciaran from the university. Not the university. I kept saying that last week. From the museum. We were talking about because they've got the largest exhibition of Moa bones and footprints and God knows what else. And I was saying to them that how much I'm a fan of Moa. So you are a Moa expert, right? So explain in like give me like 5 minutes cliff notes. How do you become a Moa expert? Obviously, with the fact that Moas haven't been around for a couple of years currently. But tell me how you got there. Just give me a little bit of a pot shot as to where you started and why you're doing what you're doing.
Okay. I grew up the top of Te Ihu in Nelson, and spent half my childhood in Nelson and Golden Bay, exploring caves full of Moa bones and the ghosts of other extinct New Zealand species. And so you'd have all the caves around Tākaka Hill and Golden Bay and up the back of Nelson. So always interested in paleontology, fossils, archaeology, like ancient human civilizations and Maori culture. And I ended up going to Vic Uni in Wellington and did Bachelor of Biomedical Science, which gave me all of the DNA or genetic skills. But there was one field trip, and that was it. And that was to the zoo in first year. And I really didn't want to do a molecular biology job. It was too much like an office job. Wanted to get out in the field. So I switched tack and went and did a master's in evolutionary genetics working on Kakariki. And so I got to spend almost every weekend out on Machu Somes or Mana Island or Kapiti Island or going around the subantarctic islands of New Zealand or the Kermadec on fieldwork, and really loved it and was looking not just at living birds but historical specimens and trying to get the fragmented pieces of ancient DNA out of those specimens to look at how our dynamic geological, climatic and human history has impacted those species. And the opportunity came up to go do a PhD in Adelaide in ancient DNA, and jumped at the chance. And when I got there, I was told, well, you could work on anything. And there were students working in there on like brown bear ancient DNA or extinct mammoths and that. And for me, it was like, well, I kind of need to be able to map what I'm actually seeing onto geography. And so I'm from New Zealand. Makes sense to work on Moa because then I can interpret all the different patterns of whakapapa and genealogy that I'm actually seeing on the landscape. So started working on Moa, and from there started looking at their evolution and their family tree and how their populations responded to climate change and geological history and humans, and looking at their plumage and their diet and their morphology, or the shape of their bones, and how that changed. And then that's naturally led into becoming a critic of de-extinction as well.
Yep. So you work at the university?
Yep, in the zoology department.
In the zoology department. I know the zoology department very, very well. I sold them their printers.
Oh, nice.
Back in 2000 and 2012 or something. So I'm responsible. Every time your printers don't work, I'm kind of responsible for that, because I'm the person who got all the Canon printers into the campus before I did other things. So I do know that building. I do know that building very well. I actually know the campus very well, because I spent quite a lot of time. That's when Canon used to be up on Great King Street, opposite the museum, and spent a lot of time there. So you work in the zoology department.
Yep.
What's your official title inside the zoology department?
Associate Professor in Ancient DNA.
Ancient DNA. So does that extend beyond Moa and into other things that were in this country or beyond?
Both. So what our lab does is we reconstruct prehistoric ecosystems. So whether they're hundreds of years old or tens of millions of years old, and we look at how our dynamic geological, climatic, and human history impacted those ecosystems, and how they responded, or in some cases didn't respond that well to those environmental forces. And then importantly, how do we actually use that information going forwards for kaitiakitanga, for guardianship and conservation management? So we have like a toolkit that's got a whole lot of different tools. So ancient DNA, so sequencing DNA, or taonga complete nuclear genomes, so your complete genetic blueprint out of living and extinct animals, so like anything that lived in New Zealand and overseas. And we also do 3D scanning. We're increasingly doing what you call classical paleontology, so going excavating fossils from a 14 to 19 million year old fossil site out at St. Bathans to reconstruct what Central Otago was like then. And then quite new age techniques like CT scanning to look at tiny little small Lilliputian fossils, or trace chemical analysis of fossils to reconstruct what these animals were doing through life. So we have this toolkit, this multidisciplinary set of tools that we use to try and reconstruct these ecosystems in ever-increasing detail.
Because if you talk to anyone about DNA and that kind of helix structure and all that kind of stuff, there's very much a Hollywood kind of vibe to some of that stuff, and it's like it's sexy work. Is it or is it really kind of like nose to the keyboard kind of like scientific stuff? Because they blow it out in like everything, like it's always DNA, right? They on the TV you look at DNA and you kind of that's exciting stuff. Is it that kind of stuff, or is it not?
So the field work, digging up all the fossils, going caving, excavating moa swamps, spending months on end going around New Zealand museums and cave sites and fossil sites, that's all really fun.
That's the Indiana Jones stuff, right?
Yeah, that's all the Indiana Jones stuff. The lab work can get really, really tedious. Yep. But the flip side is then the process of discovery of what actually comes out of that, like being able to reconstruct the whakapapa of an extinct animal, look at how it's actually responded to our dynamic history almost like in real time, and then being able to communicate that to the public is the really fun stuff that actually makes that somewhat tedious lab work worthwhile.
Right. So talk to me about Mike. I said this to Georgia last week, and I'm going to say it to you right now. I firmly believe in my heart of hearts, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I promise you, Moa are still alive in Fiordland. I firmly believe that. Not the giant one, not the really big ones, not the emu, ostrich, and bigger type ones. Maybe the chicken-sized ones, or maybe slightly bigger. That's my view, and my hope, I have to say, because as I said to him last week, I know for a fact that the Haast eagle doesn't exist, because we would have seen it, and that was one of the things. Obviously, human predation was probably one of the biggest things that got rid of Moa. But I'll ask you to clarify that later. That's again my take on it, right? But obviously the Haast eagle was something that used to prey on moa. And obviously I know that doesn't exist because I would have seen one flying around by now. But in Fiordland, I genuinely think there might be... Would I be so far off the game here that I'm like I'm praying for a miracle, or would I actually have?
Personally, I think we're about 500 years too late.
Damn.
But I can see why we would think there might be moa in Fiordland. It's like takahe were originally thought to be extinct. They were described off subfossil bones found in the North Island,
Yep.
and then they were discovered in Fiordland in the late 1800s, and then they were thought extinct again, and then rediscovered in the 1950s by Geoffrey Orwell.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking. Takahe was one of the things that I was thinking about. Like,
Yeah.
So that even if there's only 7 of them, there might be some.
The problem with moa is they've got to. They're very long lived. They're slow breeding, and when you get these populations that would have been, if we think of like the little bush moa, that would have been the one that would be able to survive in Fiordland. When you get a really, really large population like of your listeners, you all look a bit different. You look similar to your siblings and your parents. That's all genetic variation. When you get habitat destruction and overhunting and predation, you go through a contraction in geographic range, say to Fiordland, and you go through what we call a population bottleneck. So you lose all of that genetic variation and you end up like the English royal family. Inbred, or the Habsburgs, or the children of Tutankhamun and his sister. Very, very inbred. And that can lead to a whole lot of issues. It's the issues that are facing like Kakapo now. They have no genetic diversity in their immune system genes. That's why they're plagued by crusty bum and lung fungus. And so you don't necessarily have to hunt every last individual. You just have to get them below replacement level.
Yep.
And so if you've got highly inbred populations, all of these deleterious mutations or bad mutations that will affect like social structure and the ability of smell and eyesight and immune system function and everything, the population is just going to go into an extinction vortex. So like if there's South Island kokako around still, it's probably a couple of very lonely males and the population's functionally extinct. Right. We'd love them to be around, but probably not.
Is that the sort of red and black bird?
The kokako, sorry. Grey body called the grey ghost, and then basically got the blue and orange wattles.
Oh, okay. Yes, because there's two. Yes,
yeah.
I think
there's a North and South Island one.
Yes, I got that one. So, tell me about moa. So, like, go back to when moa were walking around. Like, when was that? And obviously, I mean, when did they become like extinct? And kind of give me some news on variants, and because obviously we see that massive one that we walk into at the
Targa Museum.
At the Targa Museum, but there's lots of different size and types. Isn't there?
No, there is. So the tupuna ancestors of moa were small flying birds, similar to the tinamou in South America, which are about chicken size and can fly. They were called lithornids. And they were all flying around the world. And at the time of the dinosaurs, when they went extinct, these job vacancies in the ecosystem opened up for a giant ground-dwelling bird. So lithornids independently lost flight all around the world and evolved into what we call the ratites, the emu, cassowary, ostrich, rhea, elephant bird, moa, kiwi. And so in New Zealand, those ancestors arrived about 58 million years ago and evolved into the moa. The ancestors of kiwi arrived 50 million years ago, and because the moa were already big by that stage, they stayed small and nocturnal. So the genetic data suggests the ancestor moa turned up 58 million years ago. Our first evidence of moa fossils come out of the St. Bathans fossil sites at about 14 to 19 million years. And then the next evidence we have is the footprints that are on display at a Targa Museum. And so we can think of when moa, the ancestors arrived in New Zealand, they would have radiated out to lots of different species and then maybe gone through a bit of a bottleneck and radiated out again as New Zealand's environment has changed. So like New Zealand has been uplifted and sunk partially. You've had the Southern Alps come up, created all these different habitats that the current radiation of moa, or the moa that we know and love, their common ancestor is only about 6 to 7 million years ago, tied to the uplift of the Southern Alps and then creating all those different habitats. And then the North Island joined the South Island for the first time in tens of millions of years, and you get moa can move into the North Island and speciate. So at the time of human arrival, there were 9 species of moa. So anything from one's the size of a turkey, so Mappin's moa. It can be the size of a turkey at the top of Te Tai Tokerau in Northland, but it could actually be a fairly large giant down the bottom of the North Island. So they just respond to different environmental conditions. And then you had the true giants, like the South Island giant moa, where they could actually reach to a height of about 3 metres tall. Wow. It's like lancewood. So your juveniles look really dead, long, sharp, serrated leaves, and then at 3 metres in height, they develop into a nice bushy tree where they can't be munched on by a moa. But we've also got like little bush moa we were talking about. We've got upland moa, the mountain goat of the moa that lived in the Southern Alps and rocky areas. We've got heavy-footed moa, which a famous New Zealand archaeologist, Beverly McCulloch, described as a 40-gallon drum walking on little toddlers' gumboots.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think it's Cartman out of South Park that's had too many cheesy poops.
Yep.
And we have eastern moa, for example. Most common moa in the eastern and southern South Island, but had the genetic variation of the royal family. So lots of different variety, fed in very different ways, had different habitat preferences, different diets. So you could actually get like up the Dart River Valley. So go to Lake Wakatipu, go to Glenorchy, keep going up the Dart River Valley, and about 5 different species of moa all lived in that region happily and didn't compete with each other.
Right. So what changed? Humans?
Humans. So East Polynesians arrived in New Zealand around about 1250 AD is what the latest radiocarbon dating is showing, and you have an ecosystem that's evolved in isolation for millions and millions of years. And the latest research on moa is suggesting that there was no way you could ever sustainably harvest moa, say through Mahinga Kai or traditional harvesting. There are just some species you can and some you can't. So any level of harvesting, even what you would call traditional sustainable subsistence harvesting, would be enough to cause them to go extinct. And the modeling's shown that if you were going to do sustainable harvesting of moa, you'd have to put a rahui on almost 3/4 of the South Island to make it sustainable.
Right.
Which really isn't doable. So you've got overhunting. So not necessarily wasteful overhunting. There have been umu Maori ovens discovered at early Maori archaeological sites down in the Catlins around Papatowai, where there are complete articulated moa legs still in situ. Obviously, there were a lot of moa around if you're going to leave a joint of moa still on the fire and not eat it. But overhunting also in more than the actual population or species can withstand. They're slow breeding, they're long-lived in that. You've got predation from Kiori, the Pacific rat, going after the chicks and the eggs. Kuri, the Polynesian dog, going after, again, the chicks and some of the juveniles. So Kuri was a really effective predator of medium-sized birds like moa chicks and takahe, kakapo, and the extinct goose. But you've also got burning of the landscape for hunting, for opening up areas for cultivation. So all of those led to the extinction at a time of stable climate. Now, if Europeans had been the first to arrive in New Zealand and not Polynesians, moa would have undoubtedly still gone extinct anyway. So having that blame game isn't necessarily productive and can actually cause a lot of angst where you dive into parts of the internet when you publish a paper and look at what people are commenting on. You'll get some Pākehā go, well, Māori shouldn't have a say because they caused the extinction. And then you get Mana Whenua rightly getting their hackles up through hundreds of years of colonisation and going, no, we didn't kill off the moa. And so this blame game's distracting from what you can learn from these extinctions going forward.
Right. I've got so many questions, but before we do, a quick word from our sponsor again.
Have you checked out Hazur Kebab yet? It's your go-to for a delicious lunch, a tasty dinner, or anything in between. Order online to save time and pick up some delicious, authentic Turkish cuisine in just minutes. HazurKebabCafe.co.nz. Dine in or take away at 906 George Street.
My first question for you is obviously there's a huge amount of work that's gone into understanding what you've just told me, and that I will understand is a small, tiny piece of your information that you're carrying around in your head at the moment. How does that help us going forward? In the sense of we've obviously got things like the kakapo that we're down to 230 something is existing. Is work that you're doing not just on Moa but on on all of that kind of investigative work, that mapping and that ecological and climate stuff, is that going to help us save species in the future? Because I can't bear the thought of losing more beautiful taonga species on our watch. Like like the thought that we might lose the hoi-ho from mainland New Zealand, the thought we could lose the kakapo, all the effort that's going into Takahe, but the fact that ultimately is what you're doing gonna help us there?
Yeah, definitely. And it's summed up in a Maori whakatauki, which is kia whakatamuri te haere whakamua, which is I walk backwards in the future. I walk backwards into the future with my eyes fixed on the past. And so you can't...
I love that. I've not heard that before.
It is really good. And it's quite fascinating because geology and paleontology has got a similar, completely different knowledge system. We've got a similar phrase as the past is the key to the present and future. So all of the research we're doing can feed directly into informing evidence-based conservation management. So we can look at, okay, how much genetic variation was there before human arrival? How much do we see lost, for example, with East Polynesian arrival and later European arrival? How much is left? If we're going to allow, say, Mahinga Kyle traditional harvesting, what population levels do we need to get species back up to allow that sustainable harvesting, and at what level of harvesting? But also it can really inform conservation. So the example is Takahe. Takahe were rediscovered in the Murchison Mountains. They were thought to be a tussock bird, and you look at all of the archaeological and fossil distribution of Takahe, and they like dynamic edge habitats, habitat complexity. And Department of Conservation translocated a whole lot of Takahe up into the Heaphy Track in northwest Nelson. And they said, we've done it because, importantly, there's predator control, which is good. There's tussock, and there were Takahe bones. And so the research one of my PhD students, Alex Very, did was reconstructing how Takahe responded to climate change in humans. And we sequenced the ancient DNA, looked at the population demographics, reconstructed the whakapapa. And there were Takahe in northwest Nelson, but the genetic lineages that were in those Takahe didn't survive into the current period when Polynesians arrived. And they were all older than 10,000 years. So it's actually suggesting that the Takahe habitat in northwest Nelson was really good older than 10,000 years ago at the height of the Ice Age.
But not so good now.
And rather than tracking changes in the distribution of their habitat, those lineages went extinct. So you can think of the 70s as better late than never, but it can inform, say, future translocations of Takahe aren't a tussock bird. They like very much habitat complexity, and you shouldn't put them in certain areas because the habitat's just not going to be productive for them. And so the population up there has had birds kept being pumped in, but at the same time there's been a few mishaps. But a lot of the Takahe just go out of the park into areas where the habitat's a lot more dynamic and like what they actually used to. It's just where they were put there wasn't nutritious enough food.
We're going to run out of time because we've only got 5 minutes left. I can't believe that we've done that. I told you this would happen. Might have to get you back for another 7 shows.
More than happy.
I love talking to you. I want to talk about the de-extinction part of this because obviously we've had that bit in the news about the fact that Peter Jackson and this other I can't remember the lab have come and said, well, we can bring back Moa, right? And it feels very Jurassic Park, and we saw how badly that went in literally that in so many movies that do exactly the same thing and tell us exactly the same story, and I can't see it being any different in real life. But it wouldn't. But de-extinction to me isn't bringing back the same thing, right? In my small science brain, and I don't have anything like the knowledge you've got. Even if you bring it back, it's not going to be the same as what you're trying to bring back. Am I right in that? And I know you're a critic of it, so I'd love to hear your take on it.
So real de-extinction would be bringing back an identical copy of something that lived hundreds or thousands of years ago. Yep. And it would use the same process scientists used to clone Dolly the sheep, creating an identical copy. But you need really high-quality DNA to do that, which you don't have in moa bones and fossils. Your DNA is fragmented, chemically modified crumbs and shards. So what you have to do is scientists will sequence that genome. They won't get the high-quality DNA back. They'll get the A's, G's, and C's and T's of the genetic code and compare that to a living species and then work out all the spots where your extinct species and your living differ. And then they'll genetically engineer your living species to match your extinct one. So you're never going to recreate the moa. You're going to create a poor facsimile, a genetically messed up emu.
Right.
That...
it's like a piece of paper that's been photocopied 700 times, and it's just like we see that in the cartoons. Probably South Park have done that one where they just photocopy.
Yeah,
and yeah.
So you're going to get an emu that might superficially look like a moa, but what Colossal and the Ngāi Tahu Research Centre want to do is take those moa and hatch them on Ngāi Tahu land and bring them up parentless. So there's going to be no parents to actually teach these genetically engineered emus how to behave like a moa. They're not going to have their parasites or intestinal flora that makes them work and being able to, say, transport fungal spores or seeds or fruit. They're not going to be in habitats that existed when they were alive. And there's also only going to be a couple of them. So you're going to end up with the whole inbred royal family problem again. So it's very much a case of if it sounds too good to be true, it pretty much is.
And we've seen how badly that works for the royal family. I mean, just look at Prince Andrew, right?
Yeah.
To start off with, right? That's what happens. So why are they pursuing it? What's? I mean, I might be asking you to put words in, but I'm trying to put words in your mouth. What's their end game?
So
is it just publicity?
Part of their end game is the CEO Ben Lamb has said making money, upping his numbers. Part of it is they seem to think that de-extinction will be the saviour of conservation.
Right.
And that if you bring back these copies of these species and you put them back into the ecosystem, that miraculously they will fill the role they filled and all the lost ecosystem services and connections will be restored and everything will be hunky-dory.
That to me seems like a very sort of like high level periphery sort of like, pseudoscience in the sense that like the smart people are actually saying things that aren't particularly smart in that to me, in the sense that even I sit in here can kind of go, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. That I've got a reasonable brain, but I'm not a genetic scientist of any stretch of imagination. I'm not Richard Attenborough in Jurassic Park. But I'm looking at that kind of going, that doesn't make sense because I can see straight away that if you put any animal into the world without a parent to even teach it how to be the animal that it is, that's destined to end in tears straight off the bat, right? Surely. Yeah, no, it will do. Like, and Colossal and supporters say, all these behaviours are innate; they'll just know how to do it. But with the dire wolves or genetically engineered grey wolves that are a year old, they've already said, well, they don't actually know how to hunt properly, right. So we actually need to bring in other wolves from other packs to teach them how to hunt. I'm a firm believer in develop this de-extinction technology, but don't bring back extinct species. Use this technology or this genetic engineering technology when you've actually had proper conversations with mana whenua and got their support, not the cherry-picking engagement that Colossal and Canterbury Museum and the Ngāi Tahu Research Centre have done. But use this technology to actually save what we've got left. Like reintroduce lost genetic variation back into the hoiho and take and kakapo. Make kakapo resistant to crusty bum and lung fungus. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Use it as another tool in the toolbox. Yeah. But don't try and bring back the Haast eagle. I'd love to have seen a Haast eagle. I mean, like genuinely, that would have been an impressive bird.
You need Haast eagle insurance.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but don't do that. Just do stuff that is more for the better good that way, rather than like looking kind of back over your shoulder and kind of going like, wouldn't it be nice if we could, bring a saber-toothed tiger back?
Like releasing some genetically engineered birds into a moa park for an ecotourism business is not conservation.
And that is the perfect place to end this show. Thank you very much, Nick. I could literally talk to you all day, mate, to be completely fair.
More than happy.
We might have to get you back. If you just sit there while I just round out the show, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
Well, that's a wrap for this week. Thank you for tuning in. I've been Richard Knights, and you've all been wonderful. Remember, if you're looking for a robust, respectful adult debate about all things local and further afield, and a welcoming online community that doesn't take itself too seriously, come and find What's News Dunedin on Facebook and join our fun. On next week's show, we'll be talking to Anna Preston from She Hunts Op Shops, and we look forward to seeing you next Friday at 12 on OAR FM. And if you want to listen to the show again, or simply share it with your friends, you can find the podcast at oar.org.nz, or even on Spotify, YouTube, or your favourite podcast provider.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.